All right, let's get started. I'm super, super excited for today. This is another episode of my journey of becoming, and today is my journey of becoming a nurse. And we have with us Farah Laurent, and she is a super accomplished person, 6 board certificates in nursing. She's currently pursuing a doctorate in nursing, and she is a nurse career coach. There are many, many other accolades on her LinkedIn profile for those who are interested in knowing. But here we are, Farah. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. You guys don't even know. We've been kind of following each other on LinkedIn. She's Canadian. I'm Canadian. I'm currently in the US, but and we're both career coaches. I just happen to be a nurse, but I'm so happy. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm so happy that we get to do this today.
Likewise. So I saw you went to the University of Windsor, but where were you living in Canada when you were here?
Yeah, so I was in Ontario. Yeah,
Okay.
living in Windsor, but I feel like I spent so much time in Toronto. I always joke about it as like my second city because Windsor is so small, and a lot of my friends went to Ryerson, well, formerly.
Yes.
So I would always be hanging out in Toronto and stuff and going to Caribana and whatever else was going on there. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome. It's always nice to meet fellow Canadians.
Yeah. And I immigrated to Canada when I was 9. So
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Awesome. So you are now pursuing a doctorate in nursing. You have worked in the nursing industry for many years. I want to know, is this something that you always wanted to be growing up? Was this always the goal, or did you want to do something else growing up?
So yeah, that's an interesting question. Everybody always asks, like, did you always know you wanted to be a nurse? So like deep down, yes, I always wanted to be a nurse. I joke about how when I had my dolls, I would always put like Band-Aids and like pretend I was taking care of them and stuff. And I would waste all the Band-Aids.
That's awesome.
So I knew that I wanted to take care of people and be in that area. But probably when I got closer to high school is when I really solidified it. And I was like, I want to be a nurse. But in between, I was like, well, maybe I'll be a flight attendant because I like to travel, or a photographer or whatever. So I kind of had different ideas. I'm like, I want to be a dance choreographer. And I was like, I think dancing and photography I could do on the side and really focus on nursing. So I knew that I wanted nursing. And I tell the story all the time. When I was in nursing school, my clinical instructor said, Farah, what type of nurse do you want to be? And I said, well, I want to be an ER nurse. And she kind of laughed at me and was like, what? She's like, no, you're not going to be an ER nurse. You'll never be an ER nurse. You should go into med surg. And, I was like, seriously, like that crushed me. But it was almost like also the fuel to my motivation to be like, all right, watch me, lady. I will be an ER nurse. And I'm going to be one of the most badass ER nurses around. And that's what I did. I actually got my preceptorship in the ER in my last semester and positioned myself to like really try to get in there. And there's one nurse, his name was Doug. He was like the Joker of the ER. He's like, Farah, you should really apply. You should like apply to HR. I'll put in a good word for you. I thought he was joking, but he was serious. So of course I did. And then I got hired as a nursing student before I even graduated. They hired me in that ER, and I actually got 2 job interviews for ER. And it was like 2 main hospitals in Windsor. So I actually got them both, but I picked the trauma hospital that I did most of my clinicals at. So I always share this story to really empower other nurses to pursue what they want, because a lot of times we're told you have to do this med surg, which is like a basic medical surgical unit. And it's not the truth, because we know in nursing, you don't even have to start in the hospital. There's like so many opportunities. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I've often shared the story of how like the naysayers in my life have also been the people who have pushed me to just prove them wrong, right? And it's really interesting because in the moment you can feel like, oh, you're doubting yourself, you're not sure. But now looking back on it, you're like, you see, I did it. Like
Exactly.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your journey. And so what steps in terms of education or training did you take to be a nurse? I find it really interesting because you were in Canada and then you went to the US. Like, did you have to get some kind of recertification to make sure that it was equivalent? Like, how did you go about that part?
So, so I've been a nurse for 19 years. I know it's hard to believe, like I started when I was 5. So I've been a nurse for 19 years. I graduated 2005. At the time when I took my licensing, it was a 2-day exam, not a 2-day, sorry. It used to be a 2-day exam. It was a 1-day, 8-hour exam. And that was just for Canada. So I took that licensing exam. But then to work in the US, I had to take their licensing exam called the NCLEX. So I had to take their licensing exam. But what I did was I worked in Canada for 5 years in the ER, built up my foundation, my ER skills, and then I knew that I wanted to travel because I love to travel. So I thought, well, why not go to New York City, one of the biggest cities in in the US? So I left my little city there to New York City. And of course, people were like, are you sure you want to go there? Are you sure you want to leave Canada? Like my family, you know. And this is the other thing. When you want to make these big moves, a lot of times, not intentionally, but people will try to like talk you out of it. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to really like stick to what it is that you want to do and pursue it and just do it. Because if you keep listening to like friends and family, honestly, even though they don't mean it, sometimes they'll hold you back from doing exactly what you do. So I left, went over there, but I had to do my visa screen, do a lot of immigration type papers and all that. Once I got my Michigan license, because it was the closest state, I later had to do some like, you have to give verification for other states and stuff like that. I actually had multiple licenses like Florida, California, but I never ended up going. I went to New York and did travel nursing there. Okay. But for any nurse that's interested in working in the US, I'm sure immigration laws has probably changed, but I did a TN visa, which is a trade NAFTA visa. Okay. And that's how I was able to go. But then later, you know, I got married and stuff. So now I have dual citizenship. So.
Okay, yeah. Amazing. You can, like, I feel like I'm seeing less of the videos, but during the pandemic, it was a big thing, like travel nurses, and they were showing like themselves going different places, how much money they're making. It seems like it was a big, is it still worth it to be a travel nurse, or was it just during the pandemic?
Well, like, hello, I didn't get those rates when I was travel nursing. I was travel nursing in the wrong time. Yeah. But of course I could, like, I had 2 little kids. I couldn't do and take off or whatever. But all power to them, because I'm always advocating for nurses and that they should be getting paid more money, because honestly, the work that we do is like we're putting our life on the line. Yes. And I feel like other professions sometimes get paid more and things like that. So definitely anytime nurses make more, I'm all for it. And I'm like, why not? But yes, it's kind of dwindling down a little bit because it's not as prevalent as before, but there's still a lot of contracts. But for anybody interested in travel nursing, I would say you definitely need at least 2 years experience before you do travel nursing in that specialty area, because they're not going to give you an orientation. Like you literally get 2 days.
Oh yeah? And then you're off.
That's it. You get computer training, whatever computer EMR system they're using, electronic medical record system, Epic or whatever it is they're using. You get that. They're like, okay, here's a day with your preceptor, show you the unit a little bit. And sometimes if you're lucky, you might even get half a day and that's it. And they're like, all right, you're on your own.
Interesting.
So you definitely need experience.
Yeah, that is valuable information, because like at some point I was like, hey, like the amount of dollars I'm seeing on these videos, maybe I chose the wrong profession, but they really made it look really cool, like with all the reels and stuff. And you know how social media is. Once I start watching one video, then the algorithm was just giving me travel nurse videos. It was interesting. Yeah. But what's a memorable experience that you had as a nurse, or even in your career now? You know, you're not doing nursing in a hospital, but you're still in the industry. Right. What's a memorable experience that you had?
So I've had so many memorable experiences. I would say, I worked emergency medicine for 13 years, and that was probably some of the best years because I felt like I connected really well with so many of the patients. I love doing trauma nursing, even though it sounds kind of gory, but like that's where I felt like I was in my zone. I was also a trauma instructor, and I absolutely loved it because like I used to watch Trauma Life in the ER, and I was like, I'm going to be one of those nurses. And it's so like you just get a lot of adrenaline and you work really well with the team. And it's really cool how you get to work together and really like, obviously you're like saving people's lives, right? So it's like really impactful, but it is very also emotional. You can get really drained from it. So it's important to really debrief after those type of things. And be able to have, people to talk to. So really you build really strong relationships with other nurses because nobody understands us like other nurses do, right? You're like talking about pulse ox and blood pressure and EKGs. They're like, what? Right? So like another nurse can always like understand your experience. And sometimes it's difficult to understand each other's experience if you're not in the same specialty, but you kind of know kind of what they're going through. So I'd say the ER was awesome. And then my education experience. I absolutely loved doing education. And I love teaching nursing students. I was a clinical instructor for NYU. And I promised myself that I would do that because I had some bad experiences with educators. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be a good educator. I'm going to make education fun.
I love it.
Empower these nurses to go after what they want. So that was one of my favorite jobs. And then, other educator jobs that I had. And then the last part, I know I talk a lot. I was facilitating orientations for a health system, NYC Health and Hospital. So I would run their orientations and I loved it because I was able to talk to a lot of different nurses. And I think that's why I found my joy of like speaking and like mixing it with education and stuff like that. So
amazing. Being the change that you wanted to see. I love that. That's really, really good. Yeah. So in terms of your path now, you're a career coach who specializes in supporting people who are in the nursing field. So what advice would you give someone, obviously we don't want you to say everything, but just one advice that you give someone that you're, who's maybe here connecting and trying to figure out what to do with their career. I think most of the people that I'm seeing right now may have a nursing background, but they're actually trying to transition into something else that's still connected, but not necessarily in the hospital. So someone who's making like that kind of transition, what advice would you give them?
So I would say really, finding what it is that you really want and love to do, because the beauty about nursing is there's no other profession where you get to do like over 100 roles. Like literally, I know because I did a LinkedIn Live about it. There's like over 80 to 90 roles. And it doesn't all have to be in the hospital. And the public sometimes think it's just like hospital. But you can work in the community. You could do home care. You could be a nurse entrepreneur like me. Obviously I'm trying to scale this business so I can do this full time because this is what I really love to do. So I would say really find out what it is that you want to do and stop thinking about what society or other people expect you to do. So some people think like, well, the next step is like, I should be a nurse practitioner, but they have no clue what a nurse practitioner does. Or, oh, maybe I should go back and get my doctorate, but they're not sure what they want to do with their doctorate. So I just say like, really find out what it is that you want to do and look at the lifestyle that you want to have. That's like the biggest thing. And that's any career, because if you want to have like a few days off, then maybe you should look into maybe doing like 12-hour shifts so you can have a couple of days off. That was one thing that I loved in the ER. I could schedule my time so I could have 5 days to a week off or something like that. So find out what it is. Maybe it's teaching, maybe just work around it so that you have the life that you want to have. Especially, if you have children and all that. Yeah.
Amazing. So for those who are joining us, if there is a profession that you would like to see in the next episode of someone who would come on to speak, just let us know in the chat right below. And for those who are in the nursing field, if you have any questions for Farah, just drop them in the chat, and we will try to get to them as the episode goes live. But I do want to ask you, where can people find you?
Yeah, so the platform that I'm most active on is LinkedIn, but I also launched my website recently, so you can find me on nursefarah.com. So that's one R. FARAH.com, and I have all my services there. I provide one-on-one coaching. I do clarity calls with for an hour, or group coaching. So whatever it is that you need, whether it's resumes, cover letters, interview skills, or you're just not sure what direction to go into, entering the profession or transitioning to another specialty, I definitely got you. You could definitely contact me. And I have a lot of videos on YouTube as well. I'm the host of The Nursing Dose with Farah. So you can check that out.
I will check that out. Amazing. Amazing. I realize I've been pronouncing your name in French. I think
that's okay.
Because the last name, so my brain automatically switches to French.
That's how my parents call me. So that's okay. It's like Farah, and that's like, it's Farah. That's fine.
Awesome. So what
you're like family, so it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate it. So my last question, what word would you use to describe your journey? Like you said 19 years that you were a nurse, right?
Yeah,
and you're still pursuing your career. What's one word that you would use to describe the journey that you've taken so far?
So I would say adventure. Yeah, adventure, because it's always something new and something exciting, and I'm always passionate about everything that I do. So I think an adventure would probably sum it up the best. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So I am going to be dropping the link to your LinkedIn profile and to your YouTube channel in the description. So people go ahead, especially for those who are trying to get into the nursing field. If you're completely lost, you don't have to do it alone. There are people who have the experience, who have the expertise, the knowledge, just like Farah, and she can help you through your journey. So don't try to figure it out on your own. You go a lot quicker when you have someone helping you along the way. So any final thoughts you want to share, Farah?
Well, I want to just say, honestly, nursing is a great profession. And I know sometimes there's a lot of things out there in the media or in society, like puts a negative spin on nursing, or, oh, nurses are leaving the bedside and whatever. Like, nursing is amazing. It's the best profession, I feel, no bias, right? But best profession in the world, because you can literally travel with it. It's given me so much back, and you're able to help people, and it's never boring. You can do so many different things. Like, I literally worked with a nurse. She worked in the zoo and worked in the ER. She worked at the zoo. Yeah. Like, I'm like, really? Nurses everywhere, like sporting events, like whatever. So my last word is, like, if you feel stuck or you're not happy in your current role, or you need some clarity, definitely seek out a mentor. It doesn't have to be me. Preferably you should contact me, but because I'm a nurse career coach. But you can always get a mentor. Like, something early in my career that I wish I had more of is mentorship. It took a while for me to figure it out. And when I finally started tapping into other people, I think mentorship is amazing. And you don't just have to have one mentor. You can have multiple mentors. And it doesn't even have to be, they don't have to be nurses specifically, right? Yeah. So, I have several mentors now, in business and things like that I look up to. So that's really my final thoughts. And I want to thank you so much for everything you do as well, helping all the people out there get jobs. And contact Lisa too. She's amazing, and she's doing great things out there. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing. You're the second person to come on to my journey of becoming. But every time, like, just hearing the passion that people have about their profession, like, nursing is not a field that I've ever considered except for during the pandemic. when I was seeing those videos. But it's amazing. Like growing up, there were a lot of people around me who were in the nursing field, and they did not make me want to go in that direction. So it's really refreshing to get a different perspective, someone who, has been in the industry for so long and who actually loves what they do and who has found a way to pivot in different areas. So I'm really, really amazed, and I'm sure that it'll help someone who's beginning their journey or trying to grow as a nurse. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. And again, it's all about perspective. And
It's true.
I try to keep my content positive on LinkedIn. I do talk about the real things in nursing, but honestly, it's like in every industry, there's going to be good or bad.
Yes.
It's how you perceive it and how you react. And if you don't like it, just move on to something else, right? Because you're not serving yourself or other people. So definitely, I always try to keep it positive, and I think people can find their right niche in nursing. You just need some guidance sometimes. Yeah. So
yeah, completely agree. Well, all right. Thank you so much, Farah, for being here.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Take care.
You too.